I want to show you something really cool.
Okay, so first let's talk about the cars.
Popsicle. Okay.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
Cars typically use wafer locks.
Now we got Z popsicle
To your right
stick.
are the wafers. Wafers are obviously different than pin tumbler locks. They don't split. It isn't two pins stacked on top of one another. In this case, those wafers at their when they're matched to the proper key will fit in the middle of the housing of the lock, which is on the left there. There will be an animation to demonstrate this in a second, which I just realized I didn't queue up, so it's going to be amateur hour in a second here, but that'll be just fine. Okay, the wafers are typically stacked opposite of one another. One will spring up, the next will spring down. One will spring up, the next will spring down. So they're occupying either this top chamber or this bottom chamber, and the key brings them into the middle. Yeah, well, hold on a second. I am doing everything I can not to demonstrate the porn. Oh yeah, you just made me say porn in front of my mom. You're the worst. All right, hold on. Oh my God. There we go. All right. So, we're just removing the springs for clarity's sake, but as the normal key enters the lock, it will drag each of the wafers into the middle of the chamber. You turn it, they turn freely inside of there. Does that make sense? Beautiful. Overlifting is an incredibly simple attack taking advantage of how these locks work. It's just an inherent flaw in the nature of these locks. And there are things that you can do to improve it. We're going to show you overlifting with a key blank, and then we're going to talk about the inspiration behind this talk and how I broke my own car. When a key blank is inserted into the lock, it pushes each of the wafers beyond the chamber that they would normally be caught in. So now they're going to be blocking in the opposite chamber, but they're trying to be sprung back to their natural chamber. Keep that pressure on as you remove the key, and instead of returning to their home chamber, they collide with the side of the housing. Reinsert just the tip of the lock of the key. And the lock will open. So that's a simple overlifting attack. Now, importantly, and as to why this talk happened whatsoever, I don't get to use this photo enough, so it'll actually be in the talk twice. I got to thinking, what else could I use instead of just a blank key? And then I thought, popsicle sticks. What if popsicle sticks could replace the keys to my car? Of course, what happened when I initially tried this on my car, the first attempt, so it was winter, and when you're done eating a popsicle stick, the stick is typically still pretty moist. So, you know, whether successful or not, and admittedly I was not. I did not open it on my first try. And I got into the car, it was fine, and I drove away and everything, but night comes, and all of the fluid that I just jammed into the lock, of course, helps the lock freeze overnight. And then because it's not like I know anything about locks, just get really mad the next morning and just keep shoving my key in until I've bent the wafers out of place and my driver's side door never worked again. But if at first you don't succeed, I might not know what it means, but I know my audience. So yes, I did manage to open. I managed to open my passenger side lock during the spring with the same technique. To be perfectly honest, this did not succeed many times, but it was very exciting for me, the idea that I could potentially be out of my house with absolutely no picks on me whatsoever, but still be able to. We'll talk about the ethics later, but still be able to steal a car. I toe an incredibly strict ethical line. I don't even pick the locks on my front door because I rent, so technically I don't actually own them. I'm incredibly strict about it because I'm a little bit worried that if I start crossing small lines that, I've gone on a lot of long road trips where I'll see like a 24-hour thing, but it's actually shut down for some reason, and I'm like, man, I really want a Coca-Cola. I could just let myself in and leave some money on the counter, but that's a recipe for disaster. But